Shalom, shalom. Giving honor and praise to the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. This particular teaching, lesson, speech, if you will, called A Hard Head Makes a Sore Behind, Diet in the Israelites. Now, I want to emphasize that I do lay claim to be an Israelite. I do lay claim to not be perfect. I do lay claim to not even having had the best diet. So when I'm speaking on this particular subject, I'm speaking of self. But I want to sit there and emphasize this for edification purposes in order to reach our people. Okay, this is not going to be a very long speech or a very long presentation. However, this will be necessary for edification purposes. We will be citing from three different sources. This book here, the Holy Bible, this book here, the Apocrypha, and this book here, Nutrition, No Healing. Okay? So let's go on, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. All right? We're going to start, brothers and sisters, in this particular book right here. In the book of Ezekiel, if you will. Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 9. And then let's move on from there. We are in the book of Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 9. Okay? And it says this. Take thou also unto thee wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and fitches, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread thereof, according to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon thy side. 390 days shalt thou eat thereof. And thy meat which thou shalt eat shall be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time shalt thou eat it. Thou shalt drink also water by measure. The sixth part of a hin from time to time shalt thou drink. And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man in their sight. And the Most High said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, where I will drive them. So the point, brothers and sisters, in going over that particular part, namely Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13, where it says, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, where I will drive them. The lands, brothers and sisters, where our people are, we being the true house of Israel, we're eating defiled bread, brothers and sisters, in the lands where we have been driven captive. So the Most High essentially, all right, is comparing what we eat to dung that comes out of man. Now, dung is feces, all right? That which is some people refer to as number two when you use in a bathroom, all right? That is the comparison to the food that we're eating among the Gentiles. In the scriptures is likened unto feces, right there in the book of Ezekiel chapter 4. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes when you're dealing with diet and how important it is within the house of Israel. This is something that some Israelites go hard body on. When I say hard body, I'm speaking in regards to being very emphatic, talking about it quite often, and so forth and so on. Then there are some Israelites who don't talk about it whatsoever. Oh, all right. So this is something we want to get into for edification purposes. Let's go, if you will, to Genesis in the scriptures. Genesis chapter 1. We're going to start in verse 29 so we can gain this for edification purposes. All right. And it says the following. Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. And it reads as follows. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed to you, it shall be for meat. Now, when it says for meat in Hebrew, it says la'akla, all right, which basically means for food. All right, so what we're reading in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, it says, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, and which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed to you, it shall be for meat. So, brothers and sisters, we are told in the diet that we are what? To eat things that come from the trees, that have seeds that come from the trees. So, this is something we want to point out in that particular regard. Now, let's understand something. When we go to Genesis chapter 9, verse 1, we're going to go to Genesis chapter 9, verse 1, and read to verse 4, because that seems for some to become controversy, if you will. All right, so let's go there and read and gain understanding for edification purposes. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Now in the Hebrew it says mil'u, which means fill the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the field, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But the flesh, which is the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, ye shall not eat. So some people, brothers and sisters, read Genesis chapter 9, all right, verse 3, and it says, every moving thing have I given to you for food, and think that that is emphatically saying that we, all the children of Israel, are supposed to sit there and eat everything that move upon the face of the earth. But that is not what Genesis chapter 9 is saying. Now, when it says unto you is given, let's understand Noah had three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And from those three sons, after the flood, the earth was populated. Now, the diet that was given to the children of Israel must be understood to be different than the diet that the rest of the nations had. Yet none of the people were told that they were supposed to, by the laws of the Most High, eat the blood. So this is what we want to point out in that particular regard. Let's understand something else concerning Genesis chapter 9, verse 3. It says, even as the green herb have I given you all things. In other words, we are given all things, but we know good and well that you cannot eat everything that's considered an herb. You cannot eat every leaf. You cannot eat everything from every tree, because certain things from certain trees is poisonous. Certain things you may even be allergic to. So we must know and understand line upon line, precept upon precept, in dealing with wisdom once it comes down to subject matters. All right. So nonetheless, the thing that Genesis chapter 9, verse 3 compares itself to is that which is already cleaned by the Most High. Now, all things that are cleaned by the Most High, believe it or not, may not even be fit for consumption by everybody, as stated. There are certain herbs that may not go with the chemistry of every single person, that may not go with the chemistry of every single body. All right. So, this is something we want to point out in that particular regard. Now, let's go on, brothers and sisters, to Genesis chapter 7, verse 2. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. So the clean beasts that were to go into the ark means that Noah already had an understanding of what was clean, tahor, and what was unclean, tameh. We want to emphasize that because Noah already had an understanding of clean and unclean prior to Genesis chapter 9. All right. So let's go on, brothers and sisters, to back to the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 44, if we will. We are in the book of Ezekiel, the 44th chapter. We're going to start, brothers and sisters, in verse 23. And this is speaking about the priests and what they would teach the children of Israel. Ezekiel 44:23 says, and they shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the profane, and cause them to discern between the unclean and the clean. So, brothers and sisters, between the unclean and the clean person, between the unclean and the clean spirit, between the unclean and the clean food. This is something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right. There is nothing that the children of Israel was given. And if you're claiming to be an Israelite, brothers and sisters, the diet that the Most High gave the children of Israel is second to none. All right. Now, let's go on into this particular thing in part. Let's go to Leviticus, if we will. The book of Leviticus, chapter 11, if we will. Leviticus chapter 11, and we're going to start in verse 1. All right, and it says this. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which you shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof and is cloven footed into with the cud, among the beasts that shall ye eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divide the hoof, and be cloven footed, yet he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean unto you. Of their flesh you shall not eat, and of their carcass you shall not touch. They are unclean unto you. So the children of Israel, all right, already we see here are given laws concerning certain animals that they are not supposed to eat. One of the animals that we see there is called the swine. The swine in Hebrew is called kazir. In scientific terms, it comes from the root word swine, all right, from the Latin, which means boar or pig, all right. So the sow is the female grown pig, the male is the grown pig, all right, and together they make what they refer to as a piglet, which is the child. The children of Israel is not supposed to eat a sow, a boar, or a pig. That is against our culture as far as being of the house of Israel. It also says in the hare, we are not supposed to eat rabbits, brothers and sisters. It also says in the coney. The coney is also referred to by some people as the rock badger. Some people refer to it as a pika, Pika. And what it is related as a mammal family, and it looks similar to a mouse, but it's not considered a rodent in that particular regard, and it is found in the mountains throughout the continent of Asia. All right, so this is something, brothers and sisters, that the children of Israel was told to not eat. All right, so let's go on, brothers and sisters, if we will, to Leviticus chapter 11, verse 24, and it says this: And for these things you shall be unclean. Whatsoever toucheth the carcass of them shall be unclean unto the even. And whosoever beareth aught of the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean unto the even. The carcasses of every beast which divideth the hoof and is not cloven footed, nor cheweth the cud, are unclean unto you. Everyone that toucheth of them shall be unclean. Period. So Leviticus chapter 11, verse 26, identifying the coney, the hare, the camel, and the swine. If you touch the carcass of them, you are unclean. And in Leviticus chapter 11, 26, it doesn't specify unto the even. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. We do not sit there and deal with the touching of the swine. All right. The swine today is one of the most popular unclean eating animals on earth. I made a joke, but it's not a joke in the past. And that is to say that the pig is one of the animals that's waiting for righteousness to be set in the earth. The pig is one of the animals that's waiting for righteousness to be set in the earth. So now, when we say, brothers and sisters, as in the title states there, that a hard head makes a sore behind, eating swine, brothers and sisters, messes with your joints. Eating swine, brothers and sisters, messes with your cholesterol. Eating swine, brothers and sisters, can sit there and give you tapeworms. Eating swine can give you a thing referred to as the trachania worm, which actually has an anus to it. It's an actual worm that attaches itself to your stomach lining, to your intestines, and so forth, and it eats at it. All right, so there are certain reasons why we are told to not even eat these kind of animals. But even if we didn't know, we still know, brothers and sisters, that we do not deal with this particular regard. In Leviticus chapter 18, it speaks about a man not going into a woman sexually, all right, when she's in her state of uncleanness. When a woman's menstrual mixes with the seed or the sperm of a man, it can form acid that can eventually, and heaven forbid, burn her vaginal walls. So there is a science in certain aspects, brothers and sisters, to the laws of the Most High. But once again, even if we did not know a deeper science, brothers and sisters, when the Most High say don't do, we don't do. And when you find out that you was doing something that the Most High said you don't do, you cease from doing it. Because it tells you in the book of Leviticus chapter 5, when you come to the understanding of such, then you are in your iniquity. So when you want to be relieved of such, the Most High watching you, cease from it. Cease from it. If you find out, brothers and sisters, that getting tattoos is incorrect among the culture of the Torah, don't get no more tattoos. And as soon as you're able to, have the tattoo removed. So this is something, brothers and sisters, when we begin to know, understand, and find out, you do better when you find out better. This is not a condensation on anybody. This is not taking shots at anybody. This is not to disrespect anybody. For instance, do you know many Israelites, brothers and sisters, have been eating things, come to find out, that have pork in it and pork byproducts in it? Guilty. Do you know that there are Israelites, brothers and sisters, that sit there and wonder whether or not certain ingredients has pork in it? If you have to wonder about it, you might be better off just not eating it, brothers and sisters. If you wonder that something is clean or unclean according to the laws of the Most High in the diet, you better off not eating it. It's better off perhaps to not eat it if you wonder about the cleanliness of it, as opposed to eating it and now it's on your conscience. Was that really clean? Was that really clean? Should I have eaten that? Why put yourself through that? Just don't eat it and find other alternatives to eat. Let me give an example. For those who know me personally, you know how my diet was. So that's why I'm speaking on certain things. This is the remains, and I'm not trying to be haughty or Gorton or anything like that. This is the remains of my lunch. All right. We see here fruits and salad and asparagus. This is the remains of my lunch. Last year, July 23rd, 2017, you would have never seen me eating that. I would have been eating the chicken, the turkey, the fried food, the sodas, things, brothers and sisters, that you don't even see nothing of a description of in this book. And when I say this book, I'm really talking about the Old Testament for edification purposes. There is no Hebrew word for soda. Now, not being haughty, my diet in the liquid department consists of this: either Poland Spring or Aquafina or any other water. And when I get the opportunity to have it alkaline, we're going to go there too. Because when you're able to find out and know and do better, you do better. That's the point we want to emphasize on. So having been a person who delighted in Pepsi, Coca-Cola, root beer, cream soda, ginger ale, and so forth to so on, give it up because it doesn't help you, brothers and sisters. And as stated, if you wonder about your diet, if you wonder if something is clean or unclean, you might be better off not eating it. You can't go wrong. So this is something we want to point out in that particular regard. All right. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 20, Leviticus chapter 11, verse 44. Leviticus, or Wayikra 11, verse 44 says this: For I am the Lord your God. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy. For I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. For I am the Lord that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of the beast, and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten. Brothers and sisters, Leviticus chapter 11 already gives us a diet. And there's nothing in that diet, correct me if I'm wrong, of the animals that are permissible to eat. Brothers and sisters, those animals don't eat animals, correct me if I'm wrong. The Israelite diet that allows you to eat animals or eat flesh are not from those animals that eat other animals. We do not eat cats that eat mice. We do not eat lions that eat other animals. So these are certain things we want to point out for edification purposes. We do not eat pigs that eat dogs. All right. So This is something, as stated, we want to point out for edification purposes. Let's go on to Leviticus chapter 17. Leviticus chapter 17, we're going to start in verse 12. Therefore, I said unto the children of Israel, the people who many of us claim to be, therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or the strangers that sojourn among you, which hunteth and killeth any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and pour it and cover it with dust. He shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust. The Torah is giving you a description. Once it comes down to the children of Israel hunting, or the strangers that sojourn among the children of Israel that hunt, it says of the beast that may be eaten or the fowl that may be eaten. When you deal with that, you're supposed to pour it, brothers and sisters, and then cover it over with dust. You do not sit there and cook the blood within it. We don't have medium rare in the house of Israel. We don't sit there and put the fork and knife inside it and have the blood squirting out. We don't sit there and eat blood, O house of Israel. That's cannibalism. Once it comes down to certain aspects of Christianity, because they'll tell you to eat the blood in the body of somebody, but we don't do that, Israel. So the point in dealing with the laws of the Most High, we don't deal with vampirism, which is the aspect of drinking blood. You understand? So if we're not supposed to sit there and do that, brothers and sisters, there are certain things that the Most High already has left on record. So let's see what we are supposed to do. Verse 14. We are in Leviticus chapter 17, verse 14. For it is the life of all flesh, the blood of it for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is in the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. Cut off from what? Cut off from the Most High. Cut off from your people. You understand? Because see what happens, brothers and sisters, like in the time of Saul, when they say that the people have sinned against the Most High and have eaten blood, brothers and sisters, we don't eat blood as stated in the house of Israel. And whoever does so, it says shall be cut off. So sometimes when you begin to sit there and see certain things may not be going a certain way, you might want to sit back, not trying to take shots at anybody, guilty of certain things myself. You may want to sit back and take a look at the diet that we have been into, because it can sit there and cause us to be cut off. We don't want that, brothers and sisters. We want to be, not to sound street, we want to be put on, not cut off. We want to sit there and be, as we say in the prayers of Yom Kippur, inscribed in the book of merit, inscribed in the book of life, inscribed in the book of forgiveness and perdition. We don't want to sit there, brothers and sisters, and be cut off. So if you see these are kinds of things that the Most High is setting these kind of judgments and decisions on, you may want to sit there. We may want to sit there. I am certainly sitting up there trying to sit there and better a particular diet, better the particular situation. Now we know good and well that the vegetation is still not the best, but brothers and sisters, if you watch, let's say on YouTube, the way those animals are treated, if you have any heart, you may not even want to sit there and eat that. Now, I am not saying not to eat meat. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. I am saying the way that the meat is dealt with in this society, brothers and sisters, is not according to the laws of the Most High God. You understand? It's not according to the ways, laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. I saw a situation with dealing with milk, brothers and sisters, and they had the cow, the female, she was producing milk and what have you, the homogenized, right? And they had blood going in it, and they just had it turning. They showed this on YouTube. After that, I'm only drinking almond milk. Spend a little extra if you have to. You understand? Cut out certain other things with splurging if you need to spend extra on a better diet. Because if you know now, once you know something, brothers and sisters, you are held by it. So that's why we want to sit there and emphasize this for safety not just edification, but for safety purposes. When you know better, you do better. Now, many people see the channel, see Moray Yeshaya as I'm been deemed and call myself teaching and so forth and so on. When I was younger, I did sit there and get a tattoo and then had it removed. Once you know better, you do better, O house of Israel. Now, I know, not trying to be funny, disrespectful, or anything of that sort. You got that brother Yeshaya, namely myself, yapping, talking, this, that, the third. But that brother, he shaves, or that brother, he lines his beard up, and so forth and so on. Yeah, Israel will come at you like that. Even if you're trying to edify something, even if you put yourself on the chopping block stating certain things you've done, because sometimes people may not want to hear it, they will sit there and say, hey, look, that brother shaves. I explained in another video on why a brother shaves. I will never, as stated before, tell anybody of the house of Israel to shave their beard off. Being in captivity and having to deal with the society and employment is the only reason why a brother shaves. That's the answer to that. Am I neglecting what Leviticus 19:27 says? I am well aware what Leviticus 19:27 says. You shall not round the corners of your head, neither shalt thou mar the corners of your beard. You're not supposed to sit there and deal with your hairline and your beard line in that particular aspect. The only reason why, and I'm not saying it's righteousness, brothers and sisters, the only reason why a brother shaves is due to the employment. That's it. There's no other real reason behind it. So I want to sit there and state that for edification and clarity purposes. All right. So let's go on, okay, brothers and sisters, to the next particular part. Let's go, brothers and sisters, to Ezekiel chapter 47. We're going back to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47. All right. And we're going to start, all right, in verse 12. Let's see what it says. And by the river, upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary. And the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. Brothers and sisters, the children of Israel in the future is being told that the leaf of the tree shall be for medicine. That comes out of Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 12. So we already know, brothers and sisters, that when you breathe out, the trees take in. And when the trees give out, you breathe in. We come from the earth. The trees come from the earth. It works as a system. The Most High in His creation is working as a system. And this is why we don't, in the house of Israel, plant any Asherah or grove tree. Because just as man was created by the Most High, so were trees created by the Most High. We do a service to the trees, and the trees does a service for us. We help each other. We help the trees help us. We do not bow down nor serve them. That's the difference. Lo tish tachawe lahim, lo ta'abdim. You should not bow down to them nor serve them. So we do not plant any Asherah tree, as we read in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16. We do not do the Matzeba, which is causing Matzeba is translated as image, but the word Matzeba from Nizab more so means like erected standing image. We do not bow down to that because those are things that the Most High stated that He hates. Brothers and sisters, the creation of the Most High is to work in unison, help each other, not worship each other. So this is something we want to point out in that particular regard. All right? Let's go on, brothers and sisters. Remembering what Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 12 states, what? About the leaf being medicine. Let's go, if you will, to the book of Psalms. We are going to go, brothers and sisters, to the book of Psalms, chapter 19. Psalms 19, we're going to start in verse 10. All right, and let's see what it says. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and a honeycomb. Sweeter also than honey and a honeycomb. The children of Israel got their honey, pardon me, the children of Israel got their sweets from the honeycomb with honey. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Israelites in their locale in the land of the east, the sugar cane doesn't grow over there. You understand? The sugar cane doesn't grow over in the land of Israel where the ancient Israelites lived. So they got their sweet things not from the sugar cane that many of us over here in the West use. They got their sugar, correct me if I'm wrong, from the honeycomb. So these are certain key points to point out about the diet of the house of Israel. The sugar that we've been consuming of these days and times, be it the brown sugar or the white bleach sugar, causes high blood sugar. High blood sugar getting past 125 is diabetes. You don't want that. And if you have that, you want to sit there and decrease your sugar intake. You want to sit there and find out what herbs can sit there and help you come along. Because we don't want to sit there, and I'm not trying to sound harsh, disrespectful, or offensive. All right? You don't want to have things cut off. That's what happens when diabetes unfortunately gets to a certain level and has not been attacked. When you're dealing with something like that, you got to go headstrong in it. All right. You can't sit there and play games and lollygag and next time and tomorrow. You got to do it yesterday. You got to do it right now, O house of Israel. Just like anything else that you want and desire, so be it. All right. So let's go on, if we will, to the next part, if we will. Let's go to Psalms chapter 51, verse 7. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Now, this is not saying that you want to become a white man. No, it's not talking about that when it says whiter than snow. All right. It says, purge me with hyssop and I will be clean. So this is why I wanted to introduce the books that we're going to read from. Now, we're going to go into this part right here. Let's see what this book here speaks, brothers and sisters, in regards to hyssop and what it does. All right. Let's see hyssop. Here's what we read concerning that particular subject about herbs. Hyssop, actions and uses. It says, promotes expulsion of mucus from the respiratory tract, relieves congestion, regulates blood pressure. That's a problem many black people have, blood pressure, and dispels gas. Used externally, helpful for wound healing, good for circulatory problems, epilepsy, fever, gout, and weight problems. Poultices made from fresh green hyssop can help heal cuts. It says promotes expulsion of mucus from the respiratory tract. Now, may he rest in peace, Dr. Sebi, if he was correct about certain things that he said, that all ailments or diseases can be traced back to mucus. If that's true, which most of the things that Dr. Sebi stated concerning diet and health, most of it is true. All right. Looking at Psalms 51, when it says in verse 7, purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean. Purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean. So if we can see going into a health book for edification purposes, that hyssop in part promotes expulsion of mucus from the respiratory tract. So respiratory is dealing with your lungs and the windpipe and the bronchioles in your lungs and so forth and so on. So if there's mucus in there, hyssop cleanses that. So your breathing becomes a lot easier and better. Relieves congestion within your system. Regulates blood pressure. It says, purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean. When you have high blood pressure or low blood pressure, that is a form of being unclean. That is a form of uncleanness or dirtiness or that which is not good. So hyssop was known to the ancient Israelites, brothers and sisters. These are things that you can glean and gain for edification purposes. All right. So, brothers and sisters, if we will, all right. Hyssop, parts used. It says flowers, leaves, and shoots. Why do I emphasize where it says leaves? Because we just read earlier in Ezekiel chapter 47, verse 12, about the leaves being for medicine from the trees. And right here, we see that hyssop can come from leaves. So these are things, brothers and sisters, line upon line, precept upon precept, that we want to point out for edification purposes. Now, emphasizing that I am not bashing or saying we should not eat meat. The diet concerning Pesach or Passover gives you all that you need in most cases, and in all cases with health. The diet concerning the Feast of Unleavened Bread. When you eat bread, brothers and sisters, it sits in your colon for who knows how long. All right? Unleavened bread doesn't have that yeast, that doughy thing going on. So it doesn't sit in your colon like that. All right? You have unleavened bread, which is called matzah. You have maror, which is translated as bitter herb. And then you have what is referred to, brothers and sisters, as the seh, which is the lamb. So from that, you get protein from the meat. You get the aspect, brothers and sisters, of cleansing out your colon from unleavened bread. And you have bitter herbs, and herbs work well with your system. So these are things we want to point out for edification purposes. We see in Ezekiel chapter 4, as we read earlier, that the prophet was told to drink water. Ancient Israel did not have soda. It's a four-letter word. Soda is a four-letter word. There is no Hebrew word for soda. Gazos, like many Israelites have been saying for some time, as soda is a soda-making company in the Jewish state of Israel. You are not going to find in any lexicon, biblical lexicon in Hebrew, that has any word translated as the word soda. Sugar, brothers and sisters, is not coming out of the Old Testament in this particular regard. This is something we want to point out. We pointed out earlier that the Israelites got their things of sweetness from the honey and the honeycomb, not from the sugar cane. So these are things we want to point out for edification purposes. Little things that some people guilty of it did not sit back and think and been shown until recently. All right. So let's go on, brothers and sisters, if you will, to Proverbs chapter 5, verse 4. We're going to go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 5, verse 4. All right. And it reads as follows, so we can gain something for edification purposes. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 4. And it says this: but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Wormwood, brothers and sisters, is an herb. Now let's go back to this secular source, if we will. All right. And let's look at page here. And it says this concerning wormwood and what it does. All right. On page 302. Right. Here's what we read concerning wormwood. Actions and uses. Acts as a mild sedative, eliminates worms, increases stomach acidity, and lowers fever. Useful for loss of appetite and for liver, gallbladder, gastric, and vascular disorders, including migraines. Applied topically, good for healing wounds. Skin ulcers and blemishes and insect bites. Skin ulcers and blemishes. So when you got your acne, you can use wormwood. There's virtually nothing on this earth that afflicts us as people that the Most High did not give a remedy for. There's a remedy to it. When you deal with doctors' prescriptions, you will find out, brothers and sisters, that there's some kind of herb in it. They put something natural in their man-made medicine. So why not, if you're able to, go back to what was there? And it is there. You can go up and down Brooklyn. You can go up and down White Plains in the Bronx, and you begin to see where they got herb stores. You can order herbs online legally. See, there's food, then there's junk food, then there's health food. See, there's three. There's food, junk food, and health food. The bodegas can't call themselves health food. We already see the diet, brothers and sisters, that the Most High God has given us. You understand? So let's go, brothers and sisters, and conclude for edification purposes. We're going to go in this book here, the Apocrypha. We're going to go to Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30, verse 15. In the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30, verse 15. Health and good estate of body are above all gold, and a strong body above infinite wealth. Health is better than gold. Brothers and sisters, we got to take care of our health. There are black men that are getting heart attacks in their 30s and their 40s. This is madness. There are black women that suffer from obesity. Not all them sisters are quote unquote thick. And I'm not the most in shape brother. So when I'm talking on certain things, believe me, I'm guilty of certain things. That's how I can come with such spirit, because it's not a lecture. It's actually a teaching and a confession of certain things as well. We have to change our diet and what we put in our system. Doctors speak about how people take better care of their cars than they take better care of themselves. You can't treat a thing that has rubber on the bottom and metal and tin and steel or whatever a car other properties is made of than the flesh and blood that the Most High God made out the earth. I'm not saying don't take care of your car, but if you don't take care of yourself, how you going to take care of your car, brother, sister, mother, father? You understand? So these are things we want to sit there and point out for edification purposes. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. Peace and blessings.